To Habs Unfiltered, episode 387. I am your host, Blain, and I am doing this show solo today. Treg had gum surgery, so he's unable to talk, and Matt is currently deployed overseas. However, he did send in some notes, and I will be reading those and then going over them on the air, uh, almost like it's a discussion. So, essentially, busy week in the Canadiens circle today. It's Wednesday, the 10th of January, and they are going to be playing against the Philadelphia Flyers, which is fitting for based on what we're going to be talking about here. So essentially, this is going to be talking about the Cutter Gauthier drama in Philly and with the Canadiens. Trevor Zegras' availability, whether he's a fit or not, and some talk about the three goalie system and what's going on there. Also, some news. So let's start off with the news. The the Anaheim Ducks, who I was told did not need any defensemen by people online in the last few days because they're so deep at defense. Uh, Granted, they have a really good prospect pool, but they needed NHL defensemen. And today, the Anaheim Ducks claimed Gustav Lindstrom off waivers from the Canadiens. Now, Lidstrom hasn't played very much this season, especially in Montreal, and he will provide them some depth. And honestly, the Ducks aren't that much worse off than the Canadiens, but they are worse. They're another non-playoff team, so he'll probably get more time to play there. But for the Canadiens, what this means is that Lidstrom will not be available to them to play with the Laval Rocket, who got all kinds of injury news this morning. Couple of defensemen, couple of forwards, including Sean Farrell, all going to be out for weeks at a time. And Lidstrom would have been a big help to a Laval Rocket team who are competing for a playoff spot and needed some help on defense, especially on the right hand side. So, yeah, it's you know it's unfortunate that the Canadiens lose him out of the system, even though he was probably going to be allowed to walk at the end of the season. But that's later. The hurt is more for the now. But hey, here at Habs Unfiltered, we wish him the best of luck over in Anaheim and in his future career. Um, More on Laval, more news from Laval, and that is Logan Mailloux. He was named to the AHL All Star team, so congratulations to Logan Mailloux, who who's been having a very good season with Laval so far. For a kid who only had 100 OHL games prior to joining the pro ranks, his development's looking pretty good so far. He's not NHL ready, but a full season in the AHL, including an All Star nomination, bodes well. All right, so from there, we'll go on to talk about the Gauthier drama, and I'm going to start with what my co-host Matt Smith sent to me from overseas, and here it goes. In terms of Cutter Gauthier, you have a skilled young forward drafted fifth overall in 2022 who scored 2 goals and 10 assists at the World Juniors, winning gold medal for the USA. During that tournament, it was revealed that the Flyers brass went to Sweden to meet with him, which he declined to do so. He also declined to meet other members of the Flyers, including John LeClair and Patrick Sharp, at his Boston campus. Now, this is a quote from Matt, and I quote, "This screams immaturity. You may not want to play for the team that drafted you, but at least man up and speak to the team, especially when you have individuals specifically traveling to see you. You don't have to give them the whole song and dance about why you don't want to play for the organization, but at least be a grown up about it and not hide behind your representatives." End quote. Now, I kind of disagree uh, with Matt here, but I also kind of agree. I agree that speaking to them and telling them your intentions would be the above board way of doing things. But once the more information came out. It wasn't just him saying, "Yeah, I don't want to play for this team." He wasn't pulling, a prima donna move saying, "I don't want to play for you guys," um, and that was it. It had a lot to do with how he and his camp felt that they were treated. So whether you agree with his reasoning or not, this is his reasoning, and it's Elliot Friedman reported it that he was expecting to sign a contract at the end of his first season with Boston College, or yeah, Boston College, and play a couple of games in the NHL, burning off a year of his entry level deal, which a lot of teams do for their NCAA players, especially the ones that are drafted that high. Turns out the Flyers told him, no, we're not going to sign you because we don't want the salary cap hit of the bonus structure, because they would have been over the cap and they would have had to pay the bonus structure penalty in this cap season. And, you know, they didn't want to do that. They told him to just come to camp, see what happens. They probably would have signed him to a deal prior to going to the main camp anyway. And he would have started his entry level deal this year. But apparently it was a handshake agreement that they were going to sign him at the end of the first season after, going into the 2023 summer. And the Flyers changed management teams and chose not to sign him. So that does have an impact on a young player. They expected something. They didn't get what they were expecting, uh, especially being a fifth overall pick. They felt that maybe they were entitled to a little bit of, I don't know, leeway, I suppose. And they didn't get it. So Gauthier and his camp did not get uh, what they were looking for in that, and they felt slighted. I know the handshake deal was not made with the current management team, but that doesn't matter to Gauthier and his camp. So prior to that happening, Gauthier wanted to be a Flyer. After it happened, he did not. Now the rumors were flying around that Kevin Hayes was telling him, "Hey, don't, Flyers suck, blah blah blah." Now that may be true, but with someone whispering that in your ear, then a team reneges on a handshake deal that you felt that they should have honored, well, maybe that voice starts to get, you start to give it more credence, and you realize, hey, they're not above board. They're not, you know, they're not doing what they're not sticking to their word. So why should I have to bother? And he chose not to be a Flyer anymore. Now, all of that aside, I don't think anybody should have even heard a word about this. But because the Flyers had to trade away their fifth overall pick from a year and a half ago, they knew that they were going to be inundated with all kinds of angry messages and letters and posts and everything from their fan base. So they went out of their way to kind of throw this kid under the bus. As immature as Matt said Gauthier was for not standing up and talking to these guys, I find that's a little bit underhanded by the organization. Eh, honestly, would I've done different? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I'm not a GM, but I know this much. Had this been done by, say, I don't know, Kent Hughes with the Canadiens, Hughes would be dragged through the mud almost as much as the kid would have been for not wanting to play in Montreal. And the irony is not lost on me for the fact that a kid who said he did not want to play for the Flyers is now being ostracized by that fan base who, 30 years ago, were the beneficiaries of a kid saying, I don't want to play for the Nordiques. I mean, it's kind of poetic justice when you think about it. So for myself, I know it's not 100% above board on either side, but if Cutter Gauthier goes to the Anaheim Ducks, wears number 88, and says it's in honor of Lindros, I am 100% buying an Anaheim Ducks Cutter Goatsy, number 88 jersey. I can do nothing else because at the very least, the kid would have steered into the skid and turned all of this drama into something to his benefit and made it funny at the same time. Because I'm gonna be honest, that would be hilarious. Now, um, so Matt brings up another point in that people rush to social media saying that Kent Hughes should have been all over this deal, this trade to get Goatsy because he was being shopped to like 18, 20 teams or whatever. And it cost Anaheim a second round pick and Jamie Drysdale, who was a sixth overall pick just a couple years prior, who's on a 3-year, $2.3 million deal until 2025. So the Canadiens, the cost to acquire Goatsy would have likely included a young defender, so Goalie, Hudson, Reinbacher, and Matt doesn't believe the Canadiens would have been comfortable paying that price. I'm going to have to agree with him. Um, the original rumor was that the Canadiens were to they were offered Gauthier in return for their fifth overall pick, which ended up being Reinbacher. It's had it been, you get the fifth and then you give them the fifth for Gauthier and you get the seventh back, and something else would go back with the fifth overall. Um, I don't think that would have been a problem. But the fact of the matter is the plan uh, by the Flyers was to trade Gauthier for the number 5 pick Reinbacher, and then get Michkov. They were trying to ensure that Michkov would be available to them at 7 because they knew that Arizona didn't want to pick him, so they went with that. I can't disagree with that denial, not wanting to make that deal. I don't think I would have either. It's hard to say no to something like that, but at the same time, knowing that you're going to be benefiting the other team that much more, and the fact that they're going out of their way to get the guy you want anyway, uh, probably not. And it's clear from everything in these rumors that Reinbacher was a very popular prospect, and he was truly in the Canadiens' target. He was their target. If the Canadiens wanted to get an offensive player, that's going to be the argument. Hey, the Canadiens need offense. I'm not arguing that at all. They do. Um, and a lot of people were arguing they should have drafted Michkov to fill that need. But if the Canadiens didn't want Michkov and they really wanted offense, they could have easily have chosen Ryan Leonard and not trade that pick and help out the other team. So it's clear that Reinbacher was the target, and not just for the Canadiens, but for several other teams. Anaheim, no, not Anaheim. I did it again. Arizona, who was picking 6th, they were going to pick Reinbacher if he was on the board. Even Michkov be damned. So it's clear that Reinbacher is fairly high on a lot of people's prospects list, especially at that time. NHL people, not necessarily the fan base. But hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles. All right, moving on to Trevor Zegras now. With all of this about Gauthier coming out and him going to Anaheim, word on the street now is that Zegras has become available via trade. So I wrote about this on the Hockey Writers, and yeah, so the Canadiens passed on Gauthier, the Gauthier trade, and why would Zegras be available? Well, you look at their prospect pool, the Anaheim prospect pool. Now they have Gauthier, they have Leo Carlson, they have Mason McTavish. They have a really strong forward group, and they could afford to move Zegras out if that's what they want to do, especially when you think about all the cap that they're going to have to deal with, signing all these guys, keeping them on. So first thing is, Zegras has a reputation of being a me, myself, and I kind of player. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I've heard from a couple of people. Um, I haven't seen it, but that's the rumor. All right. So would he fit with the Canadiens if the Canadiens were to trade for him? I think he could. And there's caveats to this, so please bear with me. Um, Zegras has had back-to-back 60-point seasons, back-to-back 23-goal seasons. He was a runner-up for the Calder Trophy. He's played in the past with Cole Caulfield over several seasons, winning a gold medal at the World Juniors, playing in the USN TDP. Uh, and Zegras plays a style similar to that of Jack Hughes, who with Caulfield really, really clicked. So would Caulfield and Zegras click? More than likely. They're friends. They spend time together in the off season. So why not? Let's say they do. Let's say that the chemistry is there. Is Zegras good enough to pay a massive price? And I'll get to the price in a minute. If the team sees him as someone who can get over 50 assists per season and someone who can get you 25 goals per season, so a 75 to 85 point center, then yes, they could see him as being worthwhile offensively. Defensively, there's still a lot to work on with his game, but that's where Adam Nicholas and Martin St. Louis would come into play. Now, what would the cost be? When you think about the cost that for Gauthier to land in Anaheim, uh, Matt mentioned it, you know, Drysdale in a second. Drysdale being a solid top, possible top pair defenseman who's offensively gifted. So this is a kid that's really, really high value. What would it take for the Canadiens to get something like that? A Caden Goalie, an Arbor Jackeye, a high first, a top prospect, all of the above? When you start thinking about it, it would probably cost. Let's say they want more. They don't want a defenseman. They don't want a Lane Hudson. They want a forward. So Joshua Roy, uh, possibly. Uh, Montreal's first round pick this year, maybe a first round pick the following year. Maybe another defenseman. Could be Hudson that they asked for. It could be Jackeye. It could be Struble. But a package deal like that, I think that asking price for even someone as good as Zegras can be is too much. It's just too much. You're better off to hold on to that pick in 2024, which is looking more and more like it's going to be between 5th and 10th, maybe a little higher, but there's a lot of really good quality offensive players available in that area that won't cost you all these assets or that cap space. So I, for one, don't see it worthwhile to trade for him. Now, Matt talks about this. And this is what Matt said. We know that Zegras and Caulfield are close friends, but is it the right move for the organization? And of course, at what cost? So, like I mentioned, uh, there's a balance here. Okay, so Zegras is an extremely talented playmaker. Yes. He has been showcased numerous times for the plays he has created during his young career. And this is me saying this, not Matt. The Michigan goal. And we've all seen that 1,000 times on the highlight reels. Now back to Matt's points. Matt says Kirby Dach has secured that 2C position as long as he stays healthy, and will slot back into that line when he returns from injury next season. Given the current lineup, if they were to acquire Zegras, it's possible he moves to the wing. It's true. That would allow Slafkovsky to play alongside Dach on the second line. Again, true. And it looked like Dach and Slafkovsky had some pretty good chemistry in that 4 periods that they played together. So the Canadiens would still keep that top line, but they could be able to add, I don't know, a second line. Who knows? Who knows? So that's Matt's 2 cents on those 2 points. I've made my 2 cents. Now, a little bit before we end the show here on the 3 goalie system. So tonight's game against Philadelphia, Caden Primo's starting the game. which makes sense. He's from the area. His dad played for the Flyers. Uh, Primo has played well against the Flyers in the past, so it's kind of like a homecoming. You give him that cookie. He's played fairly well this year, but he hasn't had a lot of good starts, or he hasn't had a lot of starts overall. I think it's 6 or 8 off the top of my head. I can't remember, but it's not a lot. So going to Philly, and Philly's a team in a playoff spot, and they're a few points ahead of Montreal. Is that the ideal choice if you want to compete for a playoff spot? No. This is clearly a reward to a young player who's done his work and kept his mouth shut and just kept his head down and done his job. I have no problem with that, and I have no doubt that Primo is going to do fairly well against Philly, whether the Canadiens win or not. What this means is the next night, Thursday night, the Canadiens are playing San Jose back home in Montreal, and Montembeault is going to get that start. Montembeault would clearly be the better choice as a starter against a team like Philadelphia. Philadelphia's a much better team than San Jose. Montembeault is also playing hot right now. His last 2 games have been outstanding. He stole the game from the Rangers, especially in that shootout. That one save on that one save in the shootout, unbelievable, unbelievable. He just completely shocked Zibanejad. Uh, Montembeault's also stolen games several times for the season, and he definitely stole that game against the Rangers. So he deserved this start because he's on a roll. But instead, they're pushing him over to the San Jose game, which honestly, Primo would have probably been better off with that one based on, San Jose being much lower in the standings, less pressure on Primo. Either way, that still leaves Allen, who's probably going to get the start on the Saturday night game. But this is just rotating through goalies, and Primo's not getting a lot of ice time. Montembeault deserves more starts. We're at the point now. Something's got to give. 3 goalies. I know it's working in a way for the Canadiens, but it's not really helping the young players. You look at Montembeault signed a contract to an extension to stay with the Canadiens as a starter. Well, doesn't he deserve more starts to kind of get used to playing 40 to 45 games a year? Yes. Would Primo be okay as a backup? Possibly, but we won't know until he's regularly in use as a backup or in a tandem. And you mention Primo as that backup because let's be honest, Allen would be the better choice as to be a tandem goaltender with Montembeault, but you would actually get something of value for him in a deal, and you would not get something of value for Primo at this point. So you let go of the veteran, you let the young guy play, you save a little bit of cap, you get an asset, and if it doesn't work out, you let the season play out, and this summer you find another goalie, you sign someone, trade for someone, either way, and you can send Primo down to the AHL after the camp next summer or next fall, and if someone claims him, they claim him. If not, then Laval gets a quality starter. Something's got to give here, though, and there is smoke on the horizon on an Allen trade, and I think we're going to see one by trade deadline. But hey, rumors are rumors because only for the fact that nobody really knows what's going to happen. We're all guessing. We're all trying to eke out a little hockey talk here and there. So that's it for this show. I'm not a fan of doing these alone. I like the back and forth more so, and I wish Matt could have been on this episode with me. He did send in some notes, and it was good to talk with him online even. So thanks, Matt, for for participating, and best of luck overseas. We miss you here. And for Treg, who's recovering from his dental surgery, I hope the drugs they gave you are amazing because You deserve it too. All right. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sending in your comments, emails, interacting with all three of us online, um, good and bad. Prefer the good though, but you know, take what we can get at this point. But just kidding. All of you people out there who have been talking to us, 99.99% of you have been awesome. Great people to talk to. You guys are the best. Make sure you check out other podcasts like Locked On Canadiens, Happy Hour, Have a Listen. There's tons of others. You know, we don't we don't mind you listen to other people as long as you keep coming back to us. So thank you for interacting with us. And remember, if